Okay, today's training by Southwest Air Equipment is going to cover the two Uniram products, the UG-6000 gun washer and the URS 500 P2 solvent recycler. For each unit there's an operational manual that the film portion of this is based off of. Moving forward, you should always refer to the operational manual from the manufacturer for specific operating instructions. We're going to break it down into two different categories. We're going to have component identification and then operational instructions. First unit we're going to cover is the gun washer, the Uniram UG-6000. The first component on the unit is the lid. And on top of the lid, you'll see that there is a little chart that has daily service and also operational information for your reference. The lid just lifts upwards, and the lid is a part of overall the tank assembly. Inside the tank, we have multiple components. You'll notice in the bottom, there's 4 nozzles built into the bottom of the unit. Each nozzle has a separate and independent function. The 2 nozzles with the white wheel on them are used for gravity and or siphon cups. Cup just sits right over the nozzle and it will clean the inside. All residue should be dumped out of the cup before you put it inside the gun washer. There is another nozzle in the bottom that's set up for your paint guns, and that typically requires an adapter. You have 2 adapters with it. The one with the point end is for your standard paint gun fluid inlets. The one with the blunt end is for your PPS cup systems, if that's what you use. The nozzle adapters sit over the small nozzle that's in the bottom of the tank, and then the gun will fit over that. There are 2 trigger clips that come included with the unit. The trigger clips are set up to hold the trigger of the fluid gun open while it goes through the gun cleaning process. The trigger adapter clips across the trigger and onto the back and snaps onto the back of the gun. At the bottom of the chain you'll see a nut adapter that is designed to go over the fluid inlet on any of your pressure feed guns. Once that process is complete, the gun is set on top of the nozzle adapter and is ready for cleaning. The example we have here, which is a gravity gun, we will not use the inlet or the air adapter for that. Typically you'll use the white plug adapter that is included inside the cabinet. And the reason that we won't use the nut but we'll use the plug adapter is the air inlet of the gun is now facing upwards, and so we don't want solvent to get inside the air passage of the gun, and there's a little air adjustment with that white plug that'll prevent that from loading up inside your air passage. There are 2 manual cleaning devices also located within the cabinet. The first is a clear tube with a nozzle attachment at the end, and that is a flow wand that will help you rinse off any of the parts and pieces that you want to clean off while in the cabinet. The second is a cleaning brush that again will allow you to do a little bit more extensive cleaning on your guns, cups, and pots. Both of those units are activated with the manual foot pedals, which we'll show you momentarily. Okay. Located on the top right-hand side of the unit is a vent opening. That opening is to vent any fugitive solvent fumes that are collecting inside the cabinet. On the right-hand side of the unit, there is a valve that will be able to adjust the amount of venting that happens through that outlet on top of the unit. Turning that unit as follows, will allow more air to vent from the unit, and closing it back clockwise will restrict the amount of air. Located on the lower right-hand side of the unit is your air inlet and air inlet filter. The unit has to have a minimum of 85 pounds of air coming to it to operate properly. So therefore on your wall air drop, there is an air regulator that you can set to the minimum requirement. On the front of the unit, you have the upper front on the cabinet. To the right of the cabinet, you have 4 additional controls. The large button at the top is your timer. When you're ready to start the flush process, the cleaning process, you'll turn that all the way clockwise, and it'll count back down and stop the rinse and wash cycle. Generally, it takes approximately 60 seconds to properly clean the cups and the guns. Directly below your timer knob is an air rinse valve to the left and a clean rinse valve to the right. The air rinse valve allows a small shot of air to go through the air inlet of the gun, and also comes through the external nozzles located on the inside corners of the cabinet to help dry and clean the gun. The clean rinse is for your fluid inlet. That allows a small shot of clean solvent after you flush to do a final rinse. Located below that is an adjustment valve. That's the small metal valve, and that is designed to adjust the volume of flow going to your manual cleaning brush. Located directly below those at the bottom of the gun washer are 2 foot pedals. The pedal on the left is for manual wash, and the pedal on the right is manual rinse. The manual wash uses the solvent out of the dirty container. The manual rinse uses solvent out of the clean container. There's a product door that will open. Inside of that door are your 2 containers that will hold your solvent. The pail on your left, often referred to as pail number 2, will include your wash solvent. That's the solvent used in the daily cleaning process. You'll start with approximately 3 gallons of solvent in that container. Pail number 1 on your right is your clean solvent container, and you'll start with approximately 5 gallons of clean solvent in that container. Neither container needs to be moved from the unit. The solvent can be loaded through the cabinet at the top of the unit, which we'll cover in a moment in our video. In the bottom of the cabinet inside the door, located directly above pail number 2, is an on-off ball valve. The ball valve will be depicted in actual pictures right after our description of the valve itself. The valve is used to either open the drainage from the tank into the pail, or can close the drainage from the tank to the pail. It would normally be in an open position. You'll also have it in the open position when you want to fill the containers. The next section we're going to cover is the actual setup and startup of the unit itself and the operating mechanisms on it. Obviously, the first thing we need to do is fill the containers. As we mentioned in our component identification, container or pail number 2 requires 3 gallons of material. That material can be dispensed into the container by dumping the 3 gallons of solvent into the tank itself. It'll drain through the on-off ball valve we just described, and the 3 gallons will run into tank number 2. The next tank we want to fill, tank number 1, which will ultimately be our clean solvent. There's a process. What we need to do is transfer the drain tube that is located in the top of container number 2, identified there, and we need to take the cover off of pail number 1, and we need to insert that drain tube into pail number 1. Once that tube is inserted into pail number 1, we can then take our 5 gallons of solvent for pail number 1 dispense into the tank lid and therefore into container number 1. Next, once we have our solvent loaded, and back to the solvent containers, after container number 1 is filled, please return the drain tube to the top of pail number 2. That way the dirty solvent will run into that container where it is supposed to be captured. Next, we want to prepare our guns and cups for washing. First thing you'll need to do is disconnect your airline. Take your cup and pour any unused material into a 5-gallon container or a 1-gallon pail, whatever makes the most sense for your application. Rinse cup out with solvent and pour into the same pail to give it a next step cleaning. Loosen the air cap on your gun 2 full turns. Lock the trigger into the open position with the trigger lock spring. If it's a gravity gun, insert the white plastic plug into the air inlet. If it's a pressure feed gun, you'll use the nut that is connected to the trigger lock mechanism. Now you're ready to place the spray gun into the container and put on the appropriate adapter. Remove your siphon and/or gravity cup from the spray gun. Place over the white rotating jet spray system in either corner of the box. Place the gun fluid inlet over the adapter. Always point the gun into the corner where the spray nozzles are located. Close the lid. Turn the auto wash timer all the way to the right. The unit will automatically start its cleaning cycle, which should take approximately 60 seconds. With the gun still in the cabinet, you can push and hold the air rinse button for about 3 seconds to air rinse the guns. Then you can push and hold the clean rinse button for approximately 5 seconds to rinse the guns with clean solvent. For manual wash with brush, use the left pedal if you want continuing cleaning onto the units. For a rinse, use the right pedal. You're now ready to remove the guns and cups from the tank. Have a rag available to hand wipe the units dry. And you're ready to take your guns out to the paint line and go to the next cleaning assembly if there is one. Please note that on the lid cover itself, and to run a wash cycle, the lid has to be properly closed, as there is an adapter coming off the end that hits the safety. If that is not engaged, the unit will not run. So the lid needs to be clamped down securely in order for the unit to run.